Hello, good morning. It didn't tell me it was recording like it usually does. All right, well, let's get started. I never like for these to be too long for you guys to rewatch. We're going to talk about how can we practically integrate stress reduction techniques and mindfulness and that kind of thing in our daily lives. I know this is something for me that for a long time felt like not as important as what I was eating or the workouts I was doing, but I want you guys to look at this as equally important. Sleep, stress are equally as important as what you're eating and the workouts that you're doing, okay? So let me share my screen. I have a couple slides to go through just to kind of give you guys some practical tips, and then I want to walk you through a sample Dutch test that I have done on a patient, just so you guys can see what it looks like and like what it tells me. I always feel like that's helpful. So, how to integrate mindfulness practices into our daily routine, and we will talk about the Dutch test and what it tells me. And I want this to be practical, okay? So, I love this picture because it looks like, gosh, like, wouldn't it be nice if we could all just like sit in the middle of a meadow and meditate all day with the perfect weather and all the things? But like, this isn't life. This isn't what's going to happen. But I want to give you guys some practical ways to achieve this feeling, like in this picture, but in the craziness of our life. So I've said it the past few weeks, but I'll say it again. We need repetition. We need to hear it over and over. You cannot control your stressors, but you can control how you respond to stress and the tools that you have in your toolbox to use to help reduce stress, okay? Or at least improve the way your body handles stress, okay? So, why does it matter? What I don't think many people realize is that stress and cortisol, it comes first in what we call the hormone hierarchy. So if you are a woman or a man who feels like your hormones like testosterone or estrogen, progesterone, those kind of things are out of whack, which I hear a lot, this is essential in in what those hormones are doing. Okay. So if you think about it, when your body is constantly trying to survive and like in survival mode, running from a tiger or dealing with life stressors or whatever it is, your body is not prioritizing procreation, okay? And this is just like a basic human survival kind of mode that kicks in to keep us safe. So when we are running in fight or flight all day long, your sex hormones, estrogen, testosterone, progesterone, are not going to be normal, and you're going to feel that, okay? But in today's world, in the world of social media, everyone's telling you, oh, you need bioidentical hormones or testosterone replacement and all these things. You can address that. You can put band-aids on that. But if we don't address what's happening further up in the whole hierarchy, you're never going to feel like you're always going to be increasing the dose, or maybe it lasts for a little while, gives you some relief, and then things come back. So we really want to make sure that we're stepping back, looking at the whole picture, and really dealing with things upstream so that we're not just slapping band-aids on things further down. Okay. All right. So chronic stress triggers an ongoing elevation of cortisol. If you have missed the last couple of weeks, catch up on that because I talk more about like what cortisol is and that sort of thing. But it's your body's primary stress hormone. It will disrupt your sleep. Your mood will be like a roller coaster and it depletes your daily energy reserves. You know that feeling when you are like nervous about something or you like have adrenaline leading up to something and then it's over and you have that crash. This is what a lot of you are feeling every single day because you're living, and I say you, I have done this too. I am thankfully on the healing side of it. But when you are in survival, fight or flight, rushing woman syndrome, most of the time, when you come out of that or like mid-afternoon evening when it's all kind of crashing, you feel exhausted. Okay. Mindfulness practices actively reduce cortisol levels, which helps restore hormone balance and supports your overall well-being. We're going to talk about what those are. And what I want you to hear is that simple, daily, not time-consuming techniques can really transform your stress patterns, how your brain handles this, how your whole adrenal system handles stress, and optimizes your long-term health outcomes, gives you more energy, helps you lose weight, like all of those things that you feel symptom-wise, this is all related, okay? So, the science behind mindfulness and hormones. First, let's talk about cortisol regulation. So, mindfulness practices directly lower cortisol spikes that are linked to the body's fight or flight stress response. For us today, this could be like trying to get out of bed, getting the kids out the door to school. Yes, it can be dealing with more significant stressful situations, but a lot of times it's just like the day-to-day stuff, guys. And so these practices can help create a calmer physiological state, really help your body be able to like increase resilience or be more resilient with these stressors. Um, they are anti-inflammatory, so regular mindfulness reduces systemic inflammation, which who doesn't want less inflammation? That's a kind of a buzzword, buzz term that goes around, and you don't always need some crazy I wonder why this is some crazy supplement for this. It can really just be as intentional as regulating stress and supports optimal adrenal function, sleep quality. So we know that they actually just came out with a study that said that sleep is superior to everything else, nutrition, activity, anything in longevity. So we know that the amount and quality of your sleep is crucial for proper hormone regulation, and mindfulness significantly improves both deep sleep and duration. Okay. And then emotional balance. I think as females, we feel like hormones are all over the place. We feel moody. We feel aggravated at ourselves that we respond certain ways. And what I want you to know is that using simple mindfulness techniques support emotional stability, reduce anxiety levels, help your mood stay more steady, kind of like when we talk about blood sugar, so that we're not doing the up and down like a roller coaster thing all the time. The Dutch test we'll look at in just a minute, but stands for Dried Urine Test for Comprehensive Hormones. It is a great, so kind of like a lot of you, we do the gut test or a CSAP and look at the gut microbiome. We'll do DNA core. Dutch is another really helpful functional tool that looks at all of these patterns. Okay, so we'll look at that in a second. It looks at daily hormone patterns, so it looks at estrogen, testosterone, progesterone, and their metabolites. So we get the full hormone picture. It's not just like a blood test where we're checking random measurements from these things. It is very complete. It's collected actually over a period of 24 hours, so we can really get the whole picture. So it gives you a detailed, personalized hormone profile. Again, it's really hard to capture that on a blood test. And gives us targeted insight. So when we look at it, we can say like, I'm much better able to give someone a personalized plan based on what I see on their test rather than guessing and that sort of thing. And that's the goal for everyone, I feel like, is to stop guessing. We've already done all that. So how the Dutch test works, the sample collection, we do 4 to 5 dried urine samples and saliva samples throughout the day, from the time we wake up until bedtime, and they're very specific with times that we collect it. We look at several different types of cortisol, so free and metabolized, along with estrogen, progesterone, testosterone, and their metabolites. So it's very complete. I would have had no clue how to read one of these tests when I worked in conventional medicine. And honestly, like when women would come in and say, brain fog, feel hormonal, mood swings, weight gain, I could agree to check their hormone levels because that's what they all wanted. And it really like told me hardly anything. And a lot of doctors won't even order it because they don't really know, like, unless we're collecting it at specific times of your cycle and we really know what lens to look at it through, it really doesn't give us that much information. A lot of people were always like, I want to know if I'm in menopause. It's really hard to tell that from a blood test. So that's a situation where I really felt like my hands were tied behind my back. I wanted to help people feel better, but I didn't have the data that I needed and really didn't know how to, effectively interpret it. And Dutch changes all of that. So it looks a lot at metabolic activity. So it reveals how your body produces, utilizes, and clears hormones. We're going to look at that on the test in just a second. And then I can give you actionable guidance. I can say, like, okay, these are the targeted lifestyle and nutrition modifications to personalize your treatment and get you feeling better faster. The fastest is what we want, right? So let's talk about like doable practices. And I'm going to tell you guys some of the things that work for me. One of the great ways to do it is focused breathing. So listen, this does not need to be a 20-minute sit down, like full on meditation. I'm talking about 3 to 5 minutes. Okay. And I like for you to tie it to a habit that you already have, like brushing your teeth or eating or taking the dog for a walk or driving on your way home from dropping the kids off at school or whatever it is on your way to work. So this anchors your nervous system. I really highly recommend using the Breathwork app. It's spelled like this. It's a free app. You don't need to pay for it, and you can set a timer for like 2 to 3 minutes guided deep breathing. You can also, for those of you who have an Aura ring, the Aura app will give you like some de-stress videos or like just audible kind of things. And I always love 4-4-6 breathing because I can do that without anything on my phone, without an app. Like anytime that I'm sitting, I love to do it in the car. Um, or I mean, anytime throughout your day, but the car is a really easy way for me to remember it. And basically, what you're going to do is breathe in for 4, hold your breath for 4, and breathe out for 6. So that longer exhale really stimulates the vagal nerve that turns on our rest and digest nervous system because most of us stay in that fight or flight sympathetic nervous system all day between the to-do lists, the rushing, it's our days are jam-packed. And we have to be really intentional at teaching our body to flip back to this system, okay? We can use guided meditation apps like the Breathwork app or even audio recordings. And that's great, if you can take just a few minutes throughout your day. When we look at the Dutch test, we can see times where things are wacky and like really strategically put some lifestyle things there. Again, I would use like the Aura app or Breathwork. There's a lot of other ones. I think even like Apple Watches have some guided meditation apps or just like little videos now. Movement. So don't underestimate the power of just changing your scenery, walking outside. This does not have to be I'm going for a 30-minute walk. I'm talking about like 3 laps around the building, or I do like 3 laps up and down the driveway. You get some sunshine. You take in nature. That's very grounding, and you're moving, which is really helpful with all of this. Of course, yoga is always awesome. That's something that I am not as diligent about prioritizing, but I know some of you are. Set reminders on your phone or attach it, like I said, to another habit that you do, like eating lunch. Right after lunch, you're going to go for a 3-minute walk. That's also great for regulating blood sugar. When you're in the car, you're going to do the 4-4-6 breathing. So this doesn't have to be like a total overhaul and take a lot of time. It's just being intentional with things that we're already doing and making sure that we're doing this as well. Once you get in the habit of it, it becomes a lot easier too. And then I also wanted to mention humming. Humming is a great way to stimulate that vagal nerve or the rest and digest nervous system. The vagal nerve is the connection between our gut and our brain. Again, I talked a lot about this in the previous week, so make sure that you rewatch those. Um, so really our gut and our brain are connected by the vagal nerve and it runs through the jaw. So the vibration from humming or gargling will stimulate it, and that is a really good way to reprogram the nervous system. So of course, prioritizing restful sleep, turning off screens. This is individual for everyone. For me, I find that an hour is like the sweet spot. If you're someone who like lays in bed and is watching your phone right up to the last second, start with 30 minutes, then back it up to an hour, then maybe 2 hours. Making sure that your sleeping environment is dark and cool. We know that sleep is foundational for hormone balance, and it's something that not many of us prioritize. And it's something that doesn't come easy for a lot of us as far as like insomnia and things like that. So that's definitely worth working through. Eating mindfully, so savoring each meal without distractions. We're not eating in front of computers or scrolling our phone or watching TV. We're looking at our food, we're eating it, we're savoring it, almost eating it like you're eating it for the first time. Listening to and becoming more familiar with our body's hunger and fullness cues, eating nutrient dense whole foods, not restricting calories and like having that be our focus, but thinking about like what are all the nutrient dense foods that I can get in. Managing boundaries. This is a tough one for most of us, and this is something that I've really had to embrace in the last few years. Learning to say no to commitments and stressors that are not serving you. That doesn't mean to be like selfish and always self-focused, but like knowing your limitations. It doesn't do anyone any good around you for you to push past your limits. And this is different for everyone. Obviously, if you are extroverted and get a lot of energy from, even like social things, this might look different. I am definitely an introvert and I can like turn it on for social events, but I know I can't have too many of those or it really drains me. So protecting your energy is also helping everyone around you. And for a long time, I feel like I prioritized a lot of other things and felt like I had to say yes to things. And I realized that who was suffering was my spouse and my children. And they really like are the number one things that God has given me to steward well. So saying no and putting some boundaries on other things are protecting my ability to not be moody or angry or, so over it by the end of the day that I have nothing left to invest in my immediate family. And then reducing stress eating. So using mindfulness techniques to become aware of emotional eating patterns when we're eating just because we are sad or lonely or bored or all those things and not really because we're hungry. And then sugar cravings that are often linked to elevated cortisol levels. And you all know because we've done gut tests and that sort of thing that the microbes in your gut play a huge role in that as well, as far as yeast and things like that. So, kind of putting this all together is awesome. So how do we combine, like if you do a Dutch test, how do we combine to find mindfulness with the Dutch test? And we'll look at this. I think it'll be easier to see like on the actual report. But if we see high cortisol, then we can really focus on stress reduction, mindfulness techniques, and we know specifically where to put those in the day. If we see things like estrogen dominance, we know that we can make nutrition choices and make sure that we're supporting liver detoxification to help clear some of that estrogen that is building up and shouldn't be. If we see low progesterone or adrenal fatigue, what I want you to see here is that cortisol steals progesterone. So we'll start to see a low progesterone when cortisol stays high too much because it really steals it. Okay. It's called the cortisol steal. And that's just a good example of like a direct relationship between cortisol and the adrenal system and hormones. So, mindfulness practices directly support nervous system recovery and facilitate natural hormone balance restoration over time. It does take time. This is not something that happens overnight, but the sooner we can start laying these new habits down, the better. And of course, it allows me to give you a personalized approach. We're not guessing, we see exactly what the patterns look like, so that helps you get better faster and feel better faster. All right, so your next steps. I want you guys to think through some of the options that I gave you and start small. Add just 3 minutes of mindful breathing. You can do the 4-4-6 breathing, you can do the breath work app, or you can hum. Okay, I want you to find 3 minutes in your day where you can intentionally do that every single day. Attach it to another habit so you don't forget or set a reminder on your phone. If you do this consistently, it doesn't take much time, but it really makes a profound impact. And I want you to know that and believe it. I have seen it over and over. And if you believe that it is as important as a 30-minute to an hour workout, you're much more likely to do it. Okay. Consider testing. So, if you are someone who really does struggle with fatigue or feeling hormonal and cycles and things like that, think about maybe doing the Dutch test. Will not do the Dutch test without a gut test because so much of what happens with hormones also the gut is playing a big role in that. And if we don't have that foundation set, it's really hard to address the other things, but consider doing a Dutch test if you've already done a gut test. That's going to really help us see exactly what your hormones are doing, especially if you have a personal history or family history of any sort of female cancer. So, like breast cancer, uterine cancer, ovarian cancer, it's absolutely a test worth doing. And we can personalize your stress management strategies. And I always want to empower each of you to know, like, what does my body need? What are the things that are going to help me? And that really helps compliance in the end as well. Okay. All right, let me exit out of this and I'm going to get over to the Dutch test so we can look at this. So I'm not going to go through this super in depth, but what I want you to see here is this patient was very estrogen dominant. You see how high that estrogen is with this little red arrow. Now, I want you to know that estrogen dominance can be, your estrogen doesn't have to be super high to be estrogen dominant. It can be high in relation to progesterone. So if you've been stressed for a long time and your progesterone is way down here and your estrogen is just like up here, that's still a picture of estrogen dominance. So with this patient, we really focused on helping lower estrogen, which I'll talk in just a second about how we do that. But before we move on, I want you to see. Oh, that was interesting. Cool. Um, Cortisol. So cortisol was a little bit all over the place when she woke up in the morning. It started out high, so this can be some blood sugar dysregulation at night. This is all can also be an indication of like parasitic kind of stuff because it sounds really gross, but when parasites feed at 3 a.m., they'll cause a burst of cortisol to be elevated. So we've done a parasite protocol with her. We've really worked on insulin sensitivity to help get this number down. The second measurement was okay, but then she kind of plummets, and a lot of times she would have a cup of caffeine here to bring her back up. So we've been able to strategically adjust caffeine intake, some breathing, and then of course the insulin sensitivity and like parasite kind of stuff to work on this pattern. And I mean, her biggest complaint was that the scale would not budge. She is, going to burn boot camp and eating all the right things, tracking macros, and nothing would change. When we really got this result back, we had already gone through the gut stuff. She has dropped 15 pounds and she's actually able to maintain it. Her body composition has totally changed. It's really incredible. Okay, it's giving me multiple. That's so strange. Okay, I don't know why it's putting it all here together, but the other part that I want you guys to see, of course, you can see that Dutch is very in depth. Again, it's way too much to go through here on this today. But I want you to look at this estrogen over here. So we look at three different types of estrogens. They're the primary estrogens, and that's estrone, estradiol, and estriol. So E1, E2, E3. And what I'm looking at here, you see how it says phase one estrogen metabolism? This tells me what pathways estrogen is going down in the liver to be detoxified. I want most of it coming down this 2-OH pathway. This is the clean pathway. This is the less inflammatory, less carcinogenic pathway. In other words, less likely to cause inability to lose weight, inflammation, and like breast cancer, uterine cancer, ovarian cancer. This one is not good, okay? And I don't like that more of it's coming down here than here. And then this one is not necessarily a cancer causing one, but it is very inflammatory. So with her, we have worked very strategically with supplements, lifestyle, and nutrition to switch this, getting less to be going down this pathway and more here. And we haven't repeated a test on her, but I can tell that that is happening because of how her body has responded, sheerly from like a weight and inflammatory standpoint. Um, the way we do that when we see estrogen dominance is cruciferous vegetables. So we can use supplements. I like a supplement called dual phase detox, and we can get into all that. But um, doing broccoli, cauliflower, cabbage, kale. They're literally like little scrubbers that help bind to and eliminate excess hormone. Okay. So the more you can incorporate that, the better. Cruciferous vegetables are fantastic for hormone health. Of course, if you do this test, we'll get into, if progesterone's low, what are some foods that will help bring that up? So you can see that it's a very comprehensive picture. It really helps us put our finger on, okay, what's going on, where are things going wrong, and what can we strategically do to improve this in the fastest way possible. So I hope that was helpful. Let me stop my share. If anyone has any questions, please let me know. Topic for next week is the role that nutrition plays in stress reduction. So that'll be a really fun one. Working on getting you guys email reminders and links and all that kind of stuff. But make it a priority to be here 10 a.m. every single Wednesday. I do this for you. I do this to be helpful. And I will make sure I send out this recording. See you guys soon.